Hi, it's Jovanna Casey with newjumpspot.com. So, when you're regressed, this means you are activated into a child part of yourself, and your adult and parent selves have gone to Hawaii and they've left you astray. But if you can learn to start identifying the signals that you are regressed, you will have a much quicker time getting out of regression and solving the relationship problems that you have. So the number one thing you can do is learn to identify your regressed. So for you personally, what is it? So I'll tell you some things about me and a lot of different people I've worked with, and as I list these different signals or clues, you are going to start recognizing some for yourself. So the signals and clues, some of them will be physical, some will be emotional, and some will be mental. For the emotional, it's going to be, you have an emotion, but it's going to feel really big. It will be like anxiety, like almost like I'm going to get in trouble. In fact, isn't that a little kid statement? Oh my God, I'm afraid I'm going to get in trouble. Imagine if you're at work and you goofed on a report and all of a sudden you have this anxiety and go, oh, I'm afraid I'm going to get in trouble. That's a child level statement, okay? I used to feel, I would go to meetings or meet with people and I could, after I'd leave, I could feel these floods of anxiety. And I'd be racing through my head going, oh, did it go okay? Did they like me? Is somebody mad at me? And I used to rehearse and repeat in my mind over and over again the interactions I just had, trying to make sure someone wasn't upset with me. That was a sign of regression. I didn't know it at that time, but it was a sign of regression. Some people get devastated into like flooding despair and hopelessness, like a lost child who has no one there for them. That's a sign of regression. Some people get in a real kind of snarky, knee-jerk reaction. That's regression. And think about a teenager. When a teenager starts getting kind of rebellious and I'm going to prove my point, that's regression. I work with a lot of business owners who get help from me about how to deal with some of their employees. And sometimes I'm telling them, because they're the owner and their employee's an employee, sometimes there's an employee who starts projecting their parents on the boss and they start acting like a teenager. They're regressed. And as soon as the owner gets this information, they're like, oh my God, I understand now what they're doing. And they have to come up with a different strategy how to deal with an employee who is in constant teenager mode. But you yourself might notice how you're in constant teenager mode. So the sophistication comes from you being able to see your own signals and clues. Physically, you might get symptoms or signals and clues. I used to find myself, if I would like pick at my nails, that was a clue. There was a young age part of me that was scared and triggered. And once I started learning this, the minute I would want to pick my nails, I'd go, oh wow, what's going on? There's some part of me, of this regressed energy that's here. Shopping, when you drink, how you drink, doing drugs, these can all be fueled by regression. In fact, I know many people, they're trying to maybe lose weight and they go home at night and they start doing what feels like out of control eating. Well, I will guarantee you, almost always, that is going to be a very young age regress part of you. And when people can start noticing, oh, that compulsive wanting to eat, I'm regressed. What should I do? And that's part of this 3-part video. Is going to tell you what to do for this. But for now, you start thinking, that's a sign I'm regressed. Some people do compulsive cleaning. Some people start criticizing. I know some people that they really, when they start criticizing others or judging others really strongly, that means they're scared, and the fear comes from a young age part of themselves. So now you're starting to think, well, what are some signals I might be regressed? You know, it could be any kind of agitation, right? What is going on here? And you go, whoa, I might be regressed. And then do the steps that we'll be talking about in the next video. The other thing you might notice is mental process. What do you say to yourself in your head? And that's another sign of regression. And often it could be things like, we already talked about, I might get in trouble. You know, that's a thought process. Nobody loves me. I'm afraid they're going to reject me. These are pretty young child level thoughts. It could be, I know for me, I used to be a real excessive caretaker and minimize all my own needs and what I want and really shove them aside. And there was a phrase I used to say, to make excuses for letting other people do things that felt bad to me, and it was, oh, it's not that big a deal. So I know for me personally, if I ever hear myself say, oh, it's not that big a deal, I'm in deep doo-doo because I know I'm partially regressed. So what I want you to do right now, and these are just a few ideas, but I want you to start thinking, what might be some signals I'm regressed? What are times I have felt really emotionally triggered, and even though I might feel like I'm still an articulate adult, there's some other juice there, there's something bigger going on. And what might be signals that I'm really not in my adult state? A lot of people, when they're regressed, they actually feel like a little child. They actually say, I feel like I'm smaller, I feel like I'm younger, or they feel kind of flooded and overwhelmed and kind of confused, or even have a posturing or facial presentation like kind of like this, you know, like, and we'll actually, can you see what's going on with my eyes here? It's a little bit of like, oh golly gee. And if you can start feeling, even when your face starts doing that, that is a signal you're starting to regress. So I'd like you to do now is start thinking about, how do you regress? You're going to find on my website under worksheets, some worksheets for regression. But for now, I want you to just start thinking about it. And then I'll see you on our next video. Great.